Ever feel like you're kind of stuck? Like on autopilot? Like something has got to change. But what and how? You know what I mean?
You're definitely not alone.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack this whole change thing. We're checking out this book by Rae A. Stonehouse, Embracing Change, Unlocking Your Potential in Life's Ever-Shifting Landscape.
I love that title.
Right. It's not about just dealing with change, but actually using it to unlock your potential. And to help us out, I've got our awesome expert here.
So excited to dig into this. What really struck me about Stonehouse's take is this. He flips the script. Instead of dreading change, he wants us to see it as like fuel for growth.
Totally. So where do we even begin?
He starts by saying, you got to be tuned in
Correct.
to yourself, like really paying attention to those little signs, those nudges that tell you it might be time for something new.
Okay, I've definitely felt those moments where something feels off, like my intuition is trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
Like that feeling of being stuck, or maybe your values and what you're actually doing don't line up anymore. Stonehouse even says unexpected opportunities, those can be nudges in disguise.
So how do you know if it's a nudge worth listening to or just, life happening?
Well, he gives some really great examples. Like he talks about this woman, Heather. She's like 10 years into this super successful corporate job.
Okay, I'm listening.
And she starts feeling this pull towards something more creative. Turns out she's always loved design, but kind of pushed it aside.
Wow, I bet a lot of people can relate to that feeling of what if.
Totally. So for Heather, that feeling, that was her nudge. She actually quits her job, takes a leap of faith, and starts her own design business. Whoa. Big change.
Right. But Stonehouse's point is, sometimes what feels like a risk is actually you aligning with your truest self.
I like that. But it's not always that clear cut, right? Sometimes life throws you a curveball and it feels like the opposite of what you want.
Absolutely. Stonehouse talks about that too. He tells this story about a guy named Mike. Mike gets laid off out of nowhere. Talk about a curveball, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Instead of freaking out, Mike sees it as a chance to finally go after his dream of being a teacher, something he'd always wanted to do.
Wow. So he takes this, what seems like a terrible thing, and actually uses it to launch himself towards something he's always wanted. That's some serious perspective shifting.
It really is, and that's a huge part of what Stonehouse is getting at. Sometimes those negative changes are actually course corrections.
They're like those nudges in disguise, right? Like they seem bad at first, but then...
Exactly. But even when we see those nudges, even when we want to make a change, sometimes there's this block, something holding us back.
Okay, so what is that? What's stopping us from actually making those changes, even when we know deep down they might be good for us?
Well, Stonehouse digs into something that might sound familiar. Limiting beliefs.
Oh, those. Yeah, I've heard of those. They can be sneaky, right?
Food for sneaky. It's that voice inside that says, I'm not good enough. It's too late now. What if I fail?
Oh my gosh, yes, all the time.
It's so common. And they can really trip us up because, like Stonehouse says, we don't even realize they're there sometimes.
They're like running in the background of our minds, like messing everything up. So how do we get rid of them? Like, what's the strategy?
It's like anything else, right? First, you got to know what you're dealing with. Stonehouse says, identify those beliefs, drag them into the light, and then challenge them. He even gives some specific things you can do for the most common ones.
Okay, I like where this is going. Let's hear it. What about I'm not good enough? That one gets me sometimes.
That's a big one for a lot of us. Stonehouse has a two-part approach. Ready? First, self-compassion. Instead of beating yourself up, treat yourself like you would a friend,
Be kind to yourself. I like it. But that's not always easy.
You're right. It's just one piece. So second part, focus on your strengths. What are you good at? Celebrate those.
Oh, so it's like we're countering those negative thoughts with positive ones. Okay, I can see how that would help. What about that feeling of it's too late? I feel like a lot of people struggle with that one.
Oh, for sure. That one can really stop you in your tracks. Stonehouse's answer to that one, a growth mindset.
Okay, I hear that term everywhere. What does that even mean?
Basically, it means believing you can learn and grow no matter what. No matter how old you are, what you've done before, anything. Your potential isn't fixed, You can always evolve.
So it's like instead of seeing missed opportunities or closed doors, you see what? Redirects, like detours on the path of learning.
Exactly. Stonehouse talks about all these amazing people who made big changes later in life. Proof that it's never really too late if you want something.
Okay, so we're tuning into those nudges. We're fighting off those pesky limiting beliefs. What's next on this, change journey?
This is where it gets cool. Stonehouse talks about the power of reframing.
Reframing.
Yeah, it's about taking how you see change. And instead of it being something scary, it's an opportunity.
Okay, so it's like taking a negative and looking for the positive.
Totally. And he gives you actual ways to do this, like one he calls the learning lens. So instead of thinking change is disruptive, it's a chance to learn something. New skills, new wisdom.
Oh, I like that. It's like those plot twists in a TV show. At first you're like, what? But then it makes the whole story better. It's like they say, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending, right?
I love that.
Wow.
And Stonehouse actually gives a really good example. He talks about this guy, James. James has a health scare, kind of serious.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it really shakes him up, obviously. But instead of falling apart, he uses it like a wake-up call.
Okay, so what does he do?
He changes his whole life, basically. Starts eating healthy, exercising. He even gets into cooking, turns this scary thing into this, like, positive transformation.
That's amazing. He turned that plot twist into, like, a whole new chapter. Okay, so we're getting those nudges, we're battling those negative thoughts, we're reframing, but what about those big life changes? Those moments where it's not just one thing, but everything's shifting?
Right, right. That's where having a plan helps. Stonehouse says change, especially big change, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, and like any journey, it's good to have a map.
Okay, so we're talking about like setting goals, creating a vision for what we want.
Exactly. Stonehouse says get super clear on what you want. Like, how will it feel when you get there? Who do you want to be? That vision, it becomes your guide, especially when things get tough.
Yeah, that makes sense. Having that bigger picture in mind helps when things get rough. But those huge E changes, they can feel scary. What if you get overwhelmed by those big, scary leaps?
He actually says, break it down. Don't try to climb the whole mountain at once. Just focus on getting to that next base camp, right?
Small steps. It's like that saying, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and he talks about support, too. Having people around you who get it, who can give you advice, encouragement, maybe a little tough love when you need it.
Yeah, having a good support system is so key. It's like there's people who celebrate your wins with you, but also help you back up when you stumble.
Yeah. And mentors, too. People who've been there, done that. But also people going through it at the same time as you.
Right. We're all kind of in this together. We can learn from each other. This has been such an awesome, insightful deep dive. So to wrap things up, change is going to happen, but how we deal with it, that's up to us.
Totally. We don't have to just cope with change. We can use it.
Yes. And if you want to dive even deeper into all of this, check out Embracing Change, Unlocking Your Potential in Life's Ever-Shifting Landscape by Rae A. Stonehouse. Link in the show notes.
And one last thing for you to think about. What's one limiting belief you're ready to let go of? How can you use what we talked about today to actually make that happen?
Until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep growing, and embrace those changes.